Good afternoon, and thank you for coming to our panel session. On our panel today, we have Matthew Gray, AVP in Worksite and Middle Markets for Allianz Life. He is waving. Stave McCoy, CEO at iJoin, a fintech company that serves the DC market. He is waving as well from Enrollment to Managed Account Services. And then we have Mr. James Olson, Managing Director at the Financial Processing Solution Group, just waved. FPS provides technology platforms to the retirement and financial services industry. And I'm Philip Chao, your moderator. And during this session, we encourage you, all of you, to text your questions, and we'll try to respond accordingly. I'm going to first set the stage for our conversation by flipping through a few slides. And I'm going to do that. Let's see if I can do that. Hopefully everybody can see this. This is information that I have collected from ICI Factbook. And as you can see, it's grouped by the income of workers or savers across from the lowest to the highest. And yes, you can see there are different colors, and the blue is really the 401k IRA type assets. Red are for those who have both the DB plan and the retirement plan, which is 401k, 403b, and then the gray is only DB plans. And if you look across, and you can see, of course, as your income go up, you have more savings, you have more sources of retirement assets, but as you go down to the left, that's fewer. This is another slide that shows income replacement, which is exactly reverse, which makes a lot of sense. Social Security is able to replace some 77% of the lowest quintile of income. So people making $35,000 or less at retirement, about 77% of their income can be replaced by Social Security. But as you go across, this is natural, everybody knows this intuitively, as your income go up, the replacement ratio is get lower and lower. And it is really the 4/5 that we are all planning for, to have a replacement ratio closer to 77 or 80%. This is also really interesting. When I saw this graph, it says that this was a 1999 data. That was the latest data they have. Is that after retirement, the lowest income quintile is actually need 123% of their income at retirement. And even the highest income, which is in their quintile, is $80,761 or more, requires 93%. Now the industry, our industry, is talking somewhere between 70 to 80%, has been that range, including Social Security, for as long as I can remember. I'm not saying this is the absolute accurate data, but this is a set of data from the same fact book. And it's interesting to think about, maybe we are not only saving enough, we are probably not. Maybe we're not only not investing the right way, which likely we are not, but we are also underestimating the amount of money that we need at retirement, potentially. This is 2020 Retirement Confidence Survey data from eBree. And you can see the latest April 23rd, 2020. If you search for it online, you will find this report. Some 78% of the respondents says that they are very interested or somewhat interested in some kind of a guaranteed lifetime income. I'm not going to play with words, basically annuity. And here it talks about guaranteed income as a source of retirement. It's interesting comparing the people who are still working vis-a-vis those people who are already retired. The people who are already retired is on the right donut, and the people who are looking to retire and still working is the left donut. The left donut shows you that 37% think of this will be a minor source. It's still a source, but a supplemental source whereas 16% think of it as going to be a major source of their retirement income, while I'm going to read this carefully, 46% don't think it's a source. This is certainly pre-Secure Act, pre-employer thinking about maybe dialing in annuities, maybe. Whereas the retirees, they are actually in retirement, have fewer percentages as looking as a supplement, but 16% remain pretty rock solid. So maybe those are, I don't know, the people who are under 403B, which is more dominated by annuities. Final slide. We all know about Secure Act. All of you probably have gone to more Secure Act panels than you care to remember. And so I'm not going to play lawyer or regulator here. I just want to point out the three things. One is really the Secure Act allow portability of lifetime income. Of course, we know it's a safe harbor, which is really interesting because we're going to talk a little bit about that. It adds lifetime income disclosure on participant statement. They're still figuring that one out, and I think that the final reg will come out before end of the year. And then allow employers to offer retirement plan to their employees through a pool employer plan. What is fascinating about safe harbor is that if you recall, when the safe harbor came out for targeted date funds, that really gave the final push that was necessary for target date to become a dominant default investment for the last dozen years. With that, I'm going to get started with our panel. So I would say the first question, let's go to Steve. Steve, iJoin has developed a pretty smart and intuitive user interface for participant enrollment and a managed account chassis as well to accommodate a wide range of in-plan asset allocation and portfolio construction. Steve, can you share with us that iJoin's experience with record keepers and advisors and plan sponsors so far, and where you see the future of this?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Philip. As you know, we partner with record keepers on their digital strategy. And thus far, I think it's fair to say that they're focused on three things in terms of their partnership with us. The first is the participant user experience. The second is really differentiation, how they can grow their advisor relationships, grow their business, defend it with technology and tools. And then the third would be managed accounts. Pardon me. So just a brief comment on those three things. And I was heartened yesterday to hear Jenny Johnson's comments emphasizing the goals-based approaches and personalization, because that's squarely in our wheelhouse here at iJoin. But as it relates to the participant experience, ours is fundamentally goals-based. We happen to think that the most important success metric is the extent to which the participant can replace their paycheck in retirement. And everything else kind of falls away when you talk about component parts or success metrics. So whether it's investment related or other metrics that the industry typically focuses on, it's really all about that goal and the on-track status that participant has in achieving that goal. So that's embedded throughout our user experience. The second area that I mentioned about differentiation, I think that our partners want to have better ways to manage and analyze data to the extent that that can impact plan health performance and participant outcomes. We have a very robust tool set that helps them and enables them to do that. And then finally, there's no question that our partners want to ride the wave of personalization. They want to get better positioned around managed accounts. I think one of the ways we help them do that is specifically cost. There is this, I think, prevailing notion that these solutions that are out in the marketplace are too expensive They don't support younger investors because of that factor. And I think we help our partners get better positioned, whether that's to become more competitive or whether it's to drive revenue and margin. So as for the future, we're focused on really two things. We want to expand our managed account solutions so that it's more flexible and can help our partners accommodate more or various types of demand that will continue to emerge. So whether that is different methodology types, whether that's opt-in or opt-out solutions, we want to build this such that it can accommodate more as opposed to less. And then, as you know, as my partner James Olson knows, we are hard at work on extending our user experience to support the decumulation phase. And I know that's something we're going to talk a lot about today.
Great. Thank you, Steve. There are lots there that I want to come back to. I don't want to focus on all the things you said so far, but I think we're going to have a wonderful conversation among all of us. Well, since you mentioned James, I'm going to go to James. And James, under your leadership, FPS has been working hard to develop and construct a mechanism that could incorporate annuity and annuity contracts as an in-plan investment. It's kind of interesting today we think about annuities as an investment. Can you share with us that what gaps does FPS or you see and how your solution or what you are doing can fill that gap? Please.
Thanks, Phil. Part of this is maybe going back a little bit, that in about 2013, FPS started building out technology called IPX, and it was targeted really at the 403B multiple provider space, which is a house of mirrors compared to the other, more traditional 401k market space. And that market has much more prevalence of annuities in it. So really the basis of what we started doing there was to create what I'll call an open architecture plus environment that supported mutual funds, ETFs, collectives, what have you, but also annuities, to create a combination kind of trading system that allowed the combination of an annuity component with a line of mutual funds or a managed account or a target date fund, whatever it may be. And the interesting thing about 403Bs is I think the 401k market could actually learn a lot from the 403B market and vis-a-vis, but 403Bs were inherently, in a multiple provider plan, you had many products, you had many advisors, you had multiple distribution, and it was still all running under the construct of a plan. And so to solve all those relationships and all those puzzles and to service that, I think in a new way, combining annuities into that factor, which most record-keeping systems and around the traditional case space hadn't done quite in the same way, kind of introduced us to this idea of not only is it a personal account, but you can also access an annuity that's still in plan, because in the 403B market, that's how it works. And so we kind of took all of that technology that we built, the annuity processing portal, the enrollment, the policy engagement, whether it's group or individual. And around 2015, started saying, how can we apply this into the 401k market? And so that was really the catalyst of the journey, was how do you solve for 403B, a lot of learning of how the market behaves around that kind of structure. And then saying, and the inertia of the marketplace with the interest in lifetime income kept growing at the time. And so it was a natural adaptation of everything we built to say, let's bring this to the 401k market and allow for a personal pension plan design that can easily connect to a 401k record keeping system and kind of reinvent, how this can be delivered in the marketplace, which is, going back to kind of our partnership with iJoin, that's really been accelerated because of the capabilities that iJoin has, not only with enrollment, but their accumulation factorization, and then now heading into the de-accumulation and the ways just to integrate very seamlessly with record keepers.
So let me follow up with a quick question for you, James. If I'm in the audience, I'm hearing this, do I feel that you are you are getting into the record keeping space? Should I feel threatened, or should I look at you as a partner? How should I view your place? Because you play a very important function, but I want to sort of get to understand that a little better.
Well, don't feel threatened, Philip.
I'm not. Thank you.
Clarifying question. We have actually we don't do any 401k record keeping at all. So we are not a 401k record keeper in that traditional sense. What we view this as being is not too dissimilar from an SCBA kind of bolt-on to a record keeper. So it's creating a lifetime income window component that's combined with the iJoin enrollment, where they may be doing a managed account, and that affords all kinds of functionality, whether it's in plan, out of plan, and do we do some of the trading of a managed account? We could do that, or if the 401k record keeper still wants to have those funds or managed accounts inherent in their platform, that works as well. So depending on what, because some of these things need trade restrictions and different business rules put around it, the construct of what we've designed is complementary to a core 401k record keeping system. So that's how we view ourselves, as really a bolt-on, in a sense, a lifetime income window that might just have an annuity and nothing else in it, or it could be an annuity coupled with any combination of a managed account and so on. And that really drives, depending on what the 401k record keeper wants, the plan sponsor wants, the advisor wants. Our saying, our whole way is you have to build for infinity, because you have to be able to, be flexible enough to calibrate it for all kinds of different situations.
Thank you. We'll come back to more question on that as well. Matt, it's your turn. A lot of asset managers until now have been pushing back against annuities and citing the irreversibility or reversible nature or a lack of optionality, one of my favorite words, of an annuity. Not to mention high costs and the possibility of a retiree dies before recouping his or her initial premium. I mean, those are, I think I have included like 90% of all the pushback why annuity has, it's just not the right thing. How do you think about traditional trade-offs between optionality, which is retirees maintaining full control of their retirement assets and taking on investment risk, and guarantee, which means you cannot outlive your income, but possibly disinherit their loved ones? How do you think about that as an insurance carrier?
Well, thanks, Phil. Yeah, I think maybe we can look at this from, maybe the advisor and the customer perspective. And I think we can get a lot of insight from the retail space, where annuities are widely used, widely adopted. And there's a lot of different types out there that, have different aspects along those spectrums, that you talked about. So, just according to LIMRA, the retail side has, last year, 2019, there was almost 240 or 250 billion of annuities sold. And if you just look at the products mainly focused on providing guaranteed lifetime income. So you got the SPIAs, single premium immediate annuities, DIAs, deferred income annuities, which includes the QLACs. You've got the deferred fixed, index, and variable annuities that have income riders. That population just specifically focused on income is about 85 billion. If you break that down so again, extensive use of a variety of types, but you break that down further, and you see that the deferred index and variable annuities with the income riders were used about 5 to 6 times more often than SPIAs and DIAs, and including and that's been pretty consistent over the past 5 years. And so why is that important in relative to your question? I mean, SPIAs and DIAs are great lifetime income products, but they do lack some optionality, and they have the irreversibility that you talked about. And the products with more flexibility with these income riders are much more widely adopted. And as you talk about investment control and investment risk and leaving a legacy, consumers really want a balance. And again, not just an all or nothing, which again, you can see when you look at the data of where these products are used, what people are looking for. They want that flexibility. So it isn't an all or nothing irreversible decision.
So what you are saying, if I can, there are a lot of acronyms in there, so I'm trying to figure this out a little bit. So what you're saying is that today annuities, or not even today, more recently, a recent past, annuities really providers, carriers are really looking at adding that optionality so that during lifetime there's more ability to reverse the decision if necessary for whatever reason, to give them more flexibility to do different things with an annuity rather than set it and either forget it or regret it, is one or the other. What am I thinking correctly? Am I saying it right?
Yeah, and I don't know what, that various players might be doing there, but I think, that it's just a challenge, I think, that we've seen as you look at these types of products, particularly for the in-plan space, and, not potentially having that flexibility. And then you go and look where these products are actually used and how that, that can be a deterrent. I'm not saying, products that are, annuitized are bad in any way, not at all. And that can be totally, the sponsor and looking at their participants and wanting to be able to serve them, in the best possible way. But I think just we do see when it comes down to it, if it's, turning all of your savings over, a portion over, and then that becoming an irrevocable decision, that's really hard for participants to get behind, sponsors to get behind as well. So I think, there are some lessons, as kind of James was talking, you can carry over from the 403B space to the 401k space. I think there are some lessons you can take from the retail side, where there's extensive use of these products, and seeing, just the adoption of products with flexibility, 5 to 6 to 1 compared to those without.
So you have answered like 80% of the next question I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you anyways. So the annuity safe harbor rule that we kind of ran right through at the beginning of our session under the Secure Act is really a green light to life insurers like you, like Allianz, to place guaranteed lifetime income products in the DC plan space, right? And so Allianz is a leader, I know, that much I know, in the individual annuity product innovation in the retail space, as you have mentioned. And I understand that you guys have been studying this space for some time now, in terms of in the DC market. So can you share with us what is the difference and similarities as you look at the retail space? We're still dealing with people, right? At the end, we're dealing with folks who are looking to retire and looking for that certainty of a lifetime income, that they know there's a check coming in that they cannot outlive. I don't care, you're in plan, out of plan, sometime in and sometimes out, whoever you are, there's still this desire to have certainty to some kind of income. How do you communicate this to participants, you think, and use annuities as a source of income for life in plan based on your knowledge of retail market?
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a consumer with very similar needs, both in the retail side and the DC side. It's protection of their accumulated savings. It's income replacement you can't outlive, and some other things like keeping pace with inflation or maintaining a level of control over your investments. So those are all very similar needs between the spaces. But I think when you look at the differences between DC and retail, and particularly how for the market for guaranteed lifetime income, I think, again, there are some lessons. We talked about some of those that they can learn from each other. In DC, you get the benefit of institutional pricing. You have simplified fee-based product designs. You've got plan sponsors, investment consultants, benefit committees, all under fiduciary standards, ensuring that the products are appropriate for the plans and participants that have them available. So, as a participant, that's excellent. You can be assured that you're getting, a very competitive and valuable product. And I think those lessons are already carrying over to the retail side, just with all the iterations around fiduciary standards and sales practices. Also in DC, however, there have been a lot of really innovative products over the past couple of decades, but the adoption has been low. And, you've noted the Secure Act, which is clearly addressing some of the key issues behind, that low prevalence and low adoption. But there still are some product design and technology challenges. And, James is talking about some of the challenges of just administering annuities. And I know, he'll be talking about that some more. But from a product design standpoint, what we hear from investment consultants, plan advisors, even participants is despite all the innovation, there are still several challenges. And we've heard, that some of the products in the DC space are illiquid or not very flexible in when and how the income is taken, or the savings aren't protected while they're accumulating, or once income begins, the opportunity for that income to grow and keep pace with inflation is limited without really hammering the level of income to have a guaranteed level of growth. Or, just the cost for the guarantee, maybe despite even being institutionally priced, is still just too high relative to the other investment options in the plan lineup. So this is where I think the DC space can learn a lot from the retail side, where there's been a lot of evolution and innovation in these product types, significant adoption, like I mentioned, and the product design really has evolved to address some of these concerns that I mentioned.
Great. We have a question from the audience. I'm going to ask it. A little bit more insight as to why a pure QLAC would differ from something like car insurance, where no one seems to complain about no accidents. Also, wouldn't a QLAC potentially leave other assets for heirs? You want to give that a try?
Yeah. No, I mean, QLAC is a fantastic product and a fantastic evolution that was made available through, the regulatory movement. But, just talking about adoption, I mean, I think we've, the numbers I was talking about, 85 billion focused on pure lifetime income. I think it's 0.25, billion that's focused, that's a QLAC. So nothing wrong with the product. And certainly, it is that pure longevity protection that kicks in, at some advanced age, and certainly would allow, the ability to leave assets for heirs. So it's fantastic, and that is I think really a decision by the sponsor and the advisors, really looking at the plan needs. But again, it's sort of turning over an amount of your assets and really no flexibility on that. If you live, you get it. Great, that's the point. It's longevity. But I think it's just hard for some participants to sort of put that away, and then maybe if their circumstances change or something with car insurance, you're either driving or you're not, right? And that your circumstances may or may not change, or if you don't have a car, you obviously don't need insurance, and that may happen 10 years from now. I think that's the point with just the inflexibility. So fantastic product, great innovation, great evolution, just low adoption, and I think there are places and where that's going to be absolutely the right circumstance for a sponsor, and they'll need to make that decision. But there's just some inflexibility in that product, which has I think limited some of its adoption.
Thank you. I'm going to try a question with Steve. Yesterday we did talk. Jenny Johnson talked a bit about really the need for advice, and so I know iJoin Managed Account Chassis. How is it? Certainly, it is a digital advice and communication chassis. And how does it incorporate advisors into engaging, if necessary, with the participant about how to guide them, how to help them? Because one thing we recognize, I think, at least that's how I think of it, insurance or insurance-related products can be complicated. It can carry some kind of baggage that is unnecessary or unreasonable, and that it does require a third party to sort of explain. How does your iJoin's program potentially incorporate advisors as well in the mix of advice?
Yeah, so I think in two ways. The first is that foundationally, that advisors are typically working with an investor on a financial plan, which has a goal. And our digital solution is very consistent with that. So I know, some terminology yesterday that was used was sort of continuity of advice. At the point in time where it makes sense for the advisor to engage one-on-one with that plan participant, they will be informed. They'll have the data that's necessary. They'll have the ability to communicate, whether no matter where that investor is in the accumulation phase. And certainly as they near completion of the accumulation phase, that's where that transition or that continuity can take place. I want to go back to something Matt said, which I think is an important point, especially as it relates to lifetime income products, which is flexibility. The user experience has to be flexible. It has to inform, it has to illustrate, it has to reinforce the advantages of lifetime income products. And there are going to be really different ways that the investor will ultimately consume these products through a user experience. I think, the first is voluntary, right? So it doesn't matter what kind of user experience that you're in, whether it's traditional or managed accounts. You're gonna have the ability to raise your hand and say, that makes sense for me, and I understand it. It's simple enough, conceptually easy to understand, and I'm gonna take advantage of it. I think the other two are more consistent with an automated advice solution or managed account. One is where there is a recommendation, maybe that's a part of the managed account solution, and that participant can opt in to that opportunity to start to protect. Well, let me back up. So one concept that we've been thinking a lot about is the extent to which you can inform the investor that Social Security will pay you X, but your essential expenses in retirement will be Y. And how do you plug the delta between X and Y with a lifetime inflation-adjusted annuity product? I think the typical investor can kind of wrap their brain around that, and so that's an example in the second point where you're recommending, you're more actively recommending it through the user experience. And then the final way, Philip, is really it's just a default, right? It's embedded or baked into the managed account solution or the algorithm, and then the participant really opts out if they don't want to take advantage.
That's great. So let me think about that framework that you talked about. So a lot of times when people say, well, I may need an annuity, how much do I need, and so on. So first of all, by using a digital advisor or digital advice through a managed account framework, there are a couple of ways to do this. One is really your framework of, hey, look, what is it that I am trying to replace that is fixed costs that in retirement I should not live without. So whatever that number is, let's say 2/3 is provided by Social Security, and then we still have 1/3 that I need to have. Anything more than that, it's extra trip to the Bahamas or whatever else that I'm doing during retirement, and that piece may not be necessary to be guaranteed. So it's really thinking about income into two different silos. Must-haves and want-to-haves. And it sounds like the want-to-haves we can continue to be smart about asset allocation and maybe some growth and getting likelihood of reaching that goal. Whereas must-have, we don't want to take on that kind of risk and want to be more predictable. Is that how you're thinking about?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Philip. And I think the industry is recognizing that traditional investments and insurance investments really go hand in glove. I think James can really speak to this best, though, when he says that it's important for the solution to preserve the contract for guaranteed income between the investor and the carrier. many of the product-oriented solutions that are entering the market, whether it's a hybrid or a derivative, pooled into some kind of construct, I'm not sure that implicit guarantee really exists. So that's a bit of the concept that we're trying to pursue between iJoin and FPS.
Yeah. Let's go to James, and I'll come back. There is a question that I would like to ask from the audience. But James, how does the FPS coordinate the complexity of administration, and then you have reporting, you have because you're in a highly regulated industry, right? Communication between record keepers, asset managers, plans. I mean, I go on, and advisors and participants. When a group or individual annuity contract is made available in a DC plan, let's say through iJoin, they have decided that they wanted to incorporate, they being the plan sponsor, annuity into the mix. So how does your system handle that, and how do you handle portability and all that, which is very germane to Secure Act?
Well, that's a very broad question, Philip.
Okay.
Yeah.
I won't ask it again. That's it.
I'll distill it down to something
Please.
digestible. So a lot of what we worked on, we call it APT for short, which is Annuity Processing Portal, which is based on a lot of the Accord industry standard data transfer protocols. And, I'll try to keep the text speak to a minimum. But at the end of the day, what it allows us to do is to communicate with an annuity policy administration system of a carrier, bring in whatever product design variables that have of that particular product being offered in that particular plan, whether it's group or an individual, and kind of record keep just that component. And with that, we take a switchboard kind of approach. And this is where our partnership with iJoin really brought a lot of things to the next level for us is, between iJoin's connectivity with record keepers, our connectivity with custodians and annuity product manufacturers really creates that data stream of communications for not only, issuing a policy to an individual or a certificate of a group policy to an individual, and then these plans, you might have the plan sponsor actually be a policyholder and a participant be an annuitant within it. All those kind of details aside, the communication stream that goes on really is part of the secret sauce that we've done, and in partnership now with iJoin, that created an ecosystem that kind of really covered all that communication all the way downstream back to an individual participant, and all the way on the other side to an annuity carrier's policy admin system. So I think what we've done in a way is created like a DCIO market for annuity product manufacturers to make something available, not unlike open architecture in the mutual fund 401k space decades ago, and say, and then I think you're seeing new products being designed, which Matt talked about earlier, these are specific in-plan product designs. They come onto our connectivity system, and that is in an eco environment with iJoin. And all those communications from enrollment, for the compliance reporting, the 5500, the cashiering events, are all really automated at that point. Now, there's never 90, I'll say it's a 99% automation, right? There's always, special handling on this, that, or the other thing. But that's really where our focus has been, is try to, build all the gears in the watch, work now with iJoin to create the face of the clock, to tell the participant in the most simplest terms, what time is it, depending on what time zone you're in. And that's, I think, kind of running the whole stream of, we have to make it easy for a record keeper, a plan, and an advisor to say, I'm ready to easily implement a lifetime income solution. And then once you have that in place, you win the game by making it very easy for a participant of a plan to understand what a lifetime income, I would call it an asset class, means in their planning. And there's going to be a lot of different ways that this shapes up. Steve touched on a couple of them. It could be baked into a managed account and you have to opt out of it. It could be an opt-in where you're looking at, well, you should invest this much in the market and take 20% of your money and buy into this annuity component that has a lifetime income benefit. The right products design is what Matt talked about, will give you liquidity, so you're not locked in. But some products might do that. So I think it's really, we looked at it as we're making the watch and all the gears behind it that bring together all the various service components, not only what we do, but you have to build things for the advisor, the record keeper, the custodians. Everybody needs these things to simplify delivering something into the market.
So it sounds like if we have iJoin and FPS together in a partnership where the client, in this case, either a plan sponsor or client as a plan participant, really have iJoin as the face of the watch, and you are really in the background making it all happen. But the touch and the experience is really with you.
I'm the troll under the bridge, and you guys are doing that.
Okay. Okay. We have a question from the audience as, are there any products which easily help a participant or an investor to decide on how to pick which assets they should draw down when incorporating Social Security? I think that's probably more to Steve. Steve, you want to take a crack at that, or it's really not you?
Yeah, we have a series of educational modules that we're in the throes of development. We look to try to get the first version of that out early in the next year. But it's really using calculators. It's really using algorithms to help the investor both determine what's the right first dollar invested. So whether it be 401k, Roth, HSA, and at the same time, the flip side of that is to help with first dollars out. Just depending on what your portfolio looks like, how many different registrations you have. So for us, it's an algorithm. It uses calculators. It uses a wizard-based user experience. But I don't know of any anything specific that I would point to that's out in the market right now.
So that's interesting. I have a question for Matt in a second. I think about a continuum, right? So far, we're talking about in-plan experience. And when it comes to distribution, it could be an out-of-plan experience, right? So let's say they don't keep the money in plan and they move it, where I assume James have created the ability to say, for portability reason, when they leave, that annuity somehow get moved to an IRA or something. But at that time, they may not be drawing a lifetime income. They may not have turned that into a lifetime income yet. So statistics apparently have shown that people wait 2, 3, maybe even longer years before they turn to assets to draw on lifetime income, either because they are working, they're still getting a part-time job, or they have savings they want to spend, they're not touching the qualified plan assets. So at that time, I think the question may be, or the question is, hey, is there a mechanism, is there a solution, is there a calculator that says you should take this much from Roth, you should annuitize now, and through annuitization, so much is taxable, so much is not, that kind of calculator. And I think that, again, depending if it's in plan or out of plan, that may make a difference. James, you have any thoughts on that, or you are good with what I said?
Well, I think, and I've seen a couple of things starting to come out in the market around that. This is, I think a necessary educational, tool, not only for an individual participant to know, but if they're being assisted by advisors to know, what is my drawdown strategy. I mean, this gets really very personalized based on a household, because you have to factor in so many variables at that individual level. But I think there are solutions coming out that speak to that. I'm not well versed in all of them that are coming available, but I think that's going to be one of the necessary add-ons as somebody is getting into retirement to know what is my drawdown strategy, what's the best way to implement that.
Agreed.
Agreed.
We have a question, actually. This question is perfect for Matt, I think. I don't know perfect for Matt, but this is for Matt. The question says, we're rolling out lifetime income technologies and solutions during a zero-bound interest rate environment. I will add my personal comment that it's going to last for a while. And that makes an annuity very capitalized, VERY, expensive. What can we do to survive amid these ultra-low rates and the lower for longer paradigm? I guess the question is really to insurance carrier. How are you all thinking about it? And does it make it super expensive?
Yeah, so I've been developing annuity products for about 20 years, and when I started, I think rates were in the 7% range, and everybody kept telling me rates are going up, and they've gone down every single year, in those 20 years, and now they're close to zero. Well, here again, I mean, there are, a lot of insurance carriers in this space thinking about this, and by space, I mean, offering guaranteed lifetime income to individuals. And, those products have and have to evolve. I think it does put a lot of pressure on products like, straight fixed annuities. We talked about the single premium immediate annuities and deferred income annuities where, it's all based off the underlying investment yield that can generate that, in combination, of course, with the mortality risk pooling. So, I think you do have to look to other types of products that are more sustainable in this type of environment, but they give participants the ability for growth, give participants guaranteed lifetime income. And so, again, I think it's a matter of innovation and creativity to be able to provide what is still just as much of a need as it was, when interest rates were higher. So, I also don't think we're talking about putting all of everybody's money in something like this or all at one time. I think that can be a particular challenge in these rollover type situations where you're accumulating and then going to do an all or nothing decision, at the time of retirement and whatever interest rate environment that's in. I think that's tough. I think it's got to be more investments over time, maximizing the amount of income that you can get for the interest rate environment that you're in, and having that floor protection, but giving some opportunity for growth. So I think this is completely in the wheelhouse of the insurance industry to provide very valuable products to participants and individuals that need that protection.
I would add just very quickly that we are all in the same water. From an investment standpoint, forget about annuity for a moment. Forget about insurance company. We are being challenged. I mean, right now we have a negative interest rate environment on a real rate basis after adjusting for inflation. We don't think, well, certainly the Federal Reserve has made it clear that they're not even thinking about raising rates for 3 years. They want to see the white of the eye of inflation before they even think about it. So I think at least in the foreseeable future, we are going to be in the zero bound environment. And I think it is challenging. I think it's challenging for everybody who wants to invest. And at the end, it's about risk. It's about how much risk. And if it is challenging for an insurance company who controls trillions of dollars globally, I can imagine how challenging it is for individual who cannot mutualize their risk and try to invest for him or herself, with or without an advisor, to try to equal or better what large institution can do. I think that's the flip side of the challenge. So I think we are all facing the same challenge. And yes, I think it's a difficult time because of financial repression. I think our time is up, if I am correct. I wish it isn't up, but it is up. So I want to thank all three of you for allowing me to ask these questions. I am more informed. I know I would have asked even more questions if I'm given another hour, but since I don't, very best to you and your companies, together or otherwise, in innovating new products and solutions to help advisors, consultants, so that make lifetime income, a reality in the DC plan space. We'll be at the iJoin booth to continue and responding to your questions. Thank you very much.